Recording in progress.
Okay. Good morning. We are ready to begin the Chicago Transit Authority Finance Audit and Budget Committee meeting. Director Jakes.
Good morning.
Recording in progress.
The June 16, 2023 meeting of the Committee on
Good
Finance,
morning.
Audit and Budget.
We are ready to
Yvette, would you
begin
please
the
call the
Chicago
roll?
Transit Authority. Director Ja. Here. Director Ortiz. Here. Director Barclay.
Here.
Director Miller.
Here.
Director Lee. Here. Director Jakes.
Here.
Director Jakes, you do have a quorum there with everyone in attendance.
Thank you. Our first order of business is the approval of the committee minutes of May 10th, 2023. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. It has been properly moved and seconded. We can take the roll. Director Lee? Yes. Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz? Yes. Director Ja?
Yep.
The motion to approve the minutes has passed.
Thank you. Our next order of business is the finance report. Michelle Curran.
Good morning. Thank you. Michelle Curran, Deputy CFO and Comptroller. I'll wait for the report to come up here.
Excuse me, Herb, can you, on the virtual, click the got it so we can see the report? Where it says the meeting is being recorded?
Vita has to do that down there. Vita, can
Okay.
you make that adjustment? And before we start, Michelle, I'm just gonna stop it one more time so I can get this ready for you. We can proceed.
Okay, ready?
Wait.
You still can't see the screen, Herb.
Can't see the screen. There we go. And,
It needs to be done on the other screen too.
yeah, thank you.
I apologize, I don't have eyes down there, so I don't know if you're seeing everything. And the room is muted.
Ready, Michelle. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, good morning, Michelle Curran, Deputy CFO and Comptroller. I'll be presenting the financial results for the month of April. So for April, fare and pass revenues were flat to budget. The reduced fare subsidy is also flat to budget, and non-fare box revenues were up $600,000. Overall revenues are $600,000 favorable to budget for the month. Next slide. On a year-to-date basis, fare and pass revenues are up $4.2 million compared to budget and up $15.6 million compared to 2022. The reduced fare subsidy is flat to budget, and non-fare box revenues are up by $3.5 million compared to budget. Overall, year-to-date revenues are $7.7 million favorable to the budget and up $18.7 million compared to 2022. For expenses for April, labor is favorable $6.6 million compared to budget. Materials $150,000 favorable. Fuels positive $1.2 million to budget, and power is unfavorable at $200,000 for the month. Power is unfavorable due to a lower than expected credit from a provision included in the state's Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. The provision for injuries and damages is flat to budget, and security services is 900,000 unfavorable to budget due to increased security measures. Other expenses are favorable to budget by 3.1 million, and overall April expenses are positive to budget by 10 million. Revenues net of expenses are positive 10.6 million to budget. Next slide. Year to date, labor is favorable 30.4 million compared to budget. Material is down 210,000. Fuel's positive 4.5 million, and power is positive about 50 million or 50,000. Excuse me. Provisions for injuries and damages is flat to budget. Security services are down 1.1 million compared to budget, and other expenses are favorable 5.5 million. So overall, year-to-date expenses through April are positive to budget by 39.1 million, and revenues net of expenses are positive 46.8 million to budget. For public funding, sales tax collections for February were 1.2 million favorable to budget. The May collection for public transportation funds was also 1.2 million favorable to budget. The real estate transfer tax or RET revenues for April was down 2.4 million to budget, and PTF on RET was 700,000 unfavorable. Overall, for the month, public funding revenues were unfavorable 600,000 compared to the budget. And 2023 year-to-date collections are down 3.4 million to budget due to the depressed real estate market. For the month, we'll draw 27.1 million of PRISA, ARP formula, and ARP discretionary funds. And overall, we've drawn just over 46% of our total federal relief funds. You may have heard during the debt ceiling discussions that unspent COVID relief funds are at risk, but based on discussions with FTA, we don't believe that this is the case for CTA because all of our federal relief funds have been awarded and obligated. Well, as always, we'll continue to monitor the situation. Next slide, please. And on the commodity side, we've locked in pricing on 75% of our fuel for 2023, 2024, and 2025 volumes. And we started locking in for 2026 at 10%. We'll continue to look for opportunities to lock in pricing for additional fuel levels. And we're locked in at 100% for power and natural gas for the foreseeable future. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you for the report. Under security services, both were unfavorable. Can you tell me why?
Yeah, so as we're ramping up security efforts on the system, both on bus and rail, we've seen our security costs come in a bit higher than budget. We expect that this trend will likely continue for the rest of the year. But we're favorable, our total expenses are favorable to budget. So there's capacity to absorb those unfavorable variances.
And as far as power, going back to your second slide, you said that power was down because, and I didn't understand you.
There was a state under the state's Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. There was a credit that we were expecting to be in place through May of 2023. That credit is coming in less favorable than we expected at the time of budgeting. The rates weren't announced at the time of budgeting, and the credits we were expecting to be a little bit less than what we expected.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Georgia.
Okay, Director Lee, any questions? No questions. Director Miller?
No question.
Chairman Barclay?
No question.
Director Ortiz? None. Director Ja? Questions. Director Jakes, there are no further questions. You may proceed to agenda item number 4.
Our next order of business is the independent auditor's presentation for fiscal year 2022. Michelle, please introduce the independent auditor.
Absolutely. Good morning. Again, I'm Michelle Curran, Deputy CFO and Comptroller. And today we have with us Brad Shelley from Crow and Anna Austin from Adelphia, our auditors. They will be presenting the results of the 2022 financial and single audits. We're happy to report that we have received a clean opinion, and I'd like to thank our accounting team and the auditors for all their hard work. With that, I'll turn it over to Brad.
Good morning. I'm Brad Shelley, partner today with Anna Lawson, partner from Adelphia, our DVE subcontractor on the engagement. We've completed our audit of the December 31st, 2022 financial statement.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm seeing challenges to be able to hear, to record or document things. I wonder if you can speak up or just make sure that we can try to hear you more clearly.
Yeah. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good morning. Again, my name is Brad Shelley. I'm partner with Crow, and I'm here with Anna Lawson, partner from Adelphia, our DVE subcontractor on the engagement. We've completed our audit of the December 31, 2022 financial statements. We were engaged to audit the financial statements to determine that they were reasonably stated in all material respects, as well as to audit the federal grant funds in accordance with the guidelines set forth by the federal government for compliance with laws and regulations. In regards to the financial statement audit, it has been completed and the auditor's opinion has been issued. The audit opinion was unmodified or a clean audit opinion, which means that the amounts presented in the financial statements and the notes to the financial statements are reasonably stated in all material respects. As required by government auditing standards, we also looked at the internal controls over financial reporting to determine if there were any items required to be identified under these standards, and we do not have any findings to report under the government auditing standards. Anne is going to provide an update on the federal.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Anna Ausan, and I'm a partner from Adelphia LLC, and I'm the DBE partner on this audit. So I'm happy to report that Crow was able to issue an unmodified opinion on compliance with federal programs for the year ended December 31st, 2022. CTA receives a number of federal grants. However, based on federal guidelines, our testing was focused on two major programs this year. So those programs were the Federal Transit Cluster and the Rail and Transit Security Grant Program. So due to the size of these programs and the inclusion of the CARES funding within the Federal Transit Cluster, we were able to get 93% coverage of federal fund spending, as the Federal Transit Cluster is the largest federal program that CTA expense from. And also, as part of our audit process, we also evaluated the internal controls over compliance with those two programs. And based on the results of our testing, I'm pleased to report that we do not have any findings. So back to you, Brad.
Yeah, thanks. So that's a summary of our audit procedures for both the financial and federal audit. We'd like to thank the entire finance department for working with us in a professional manner and providing us with the information required to timely issue the audit opinions. At this point, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Brad, and was that Anna? That was on the screen?
Yes.
And so I want to say thank you for your report, but I also want to acknowledge the finance team. I sound like I'm in church with finance team. The finance team for doing everything you do to make sure that we had a clean audit. That is not something that should be overlooked. And so kudos to all of you, Jeremy, Michelle, and everyone else, and Dorval to you as well. So thank you so much, because that makes it a lot easier. So thank you, everybody. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Are there any additional comments or questions? Director Ja?
No questions. Thank you.
Director Ortiz?
Thank you as well.
Chairman Barclay?
I just want to echo what the chairman just said. I know we met early on about this process, outlined the protocol with you guys, and thank you for your work, and thank you to our team for making it a little bit easier for you. Thank you.
Director Miller?
Ditto what they both said. Thank you.
Director Lee?
No question.
Director Jakes, you may proceed to agenda item number 5.
Thank you, Georgette. Our next order of business is an ordinance authorizing a co-promotional agreement with the city of Chicago through its Department of Assets, Information and Services. Michelle Curran.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Michelle Curran, Deputy CFO and Comptroller. And today I present for your consideration a co-promotional trade agreement with the City of Chicago Department of Assets, Information and Services, or AIS. This department, which was previously known as Department of Fleet and Facility Management,
Agreement
or
with the City of
2FM, has been a co-promotional partner of CTA since 2006. The total value of the co-promotional trade agreement is $392,000, $952.50. The trade value has been the same since 2020. CTA will provide AIS with interior car cards on bus and rail up to this amount in value. As this is unsold advertising space that CTA is providing, and as printing costs are the responsibility of AIS, there is no cost to CTA to enter into this co-promotional agreement. AIS will provide CTA with space on 250 JC2Co managed bus shelters that are located throughout Chicago, a total value equal to the co-promotional trade value. This partnership gives CTA exposure to a larger audience of residents and visitors through advertising on the city's bus shelters. It also enables the City of Chicago to reach CTA customers with important messages related to city programs and events. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have no questions.
Director Lee? Director Miller?
No question.
Chairman Barclay?
No question.
Director Ortiz?
None.
Director Ja?
Questions?
Director Jakes, there are no further questions.
May I now have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller and seconded by Director Ortiz. This ordinance does require a roll call vote. Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Jakes, the motion passes to place the item on the omnibus.
Our next order of business is an ordinance authorizing a license agreement with Pace for the use of 2 parking spaces at the Rosemont Park and Ride lot for Pace Van Gogh Pilot Vehicle Program. Michelle Curran.
Thank you. Again, good morning, Michelle Curran, Deputy CFO and Comptroller. Today I present for your consideration an ordinance authorizing a non-exclusive license agreement with Pace for use of 2 parking spaces at the CTA Rosemont Park and Ride facility. Pace's Van Gogh pilot program is a reservation-based service in which pre-registered program participants can reserve vans to use on the next business day. The pilot program provides a first mile, last mile transit option for customers who will be able to take the Blue Line to Rosemont and then pick up a Pace Van Gogh van for the last leg of their trip. This is providing further integration between CTA and Pace. CTA will provide the 2 parking spaces to Pace at no cost. Pace will be responsible for the cost of installing and maintaining signage, identifying the spaces as part of the Van Gogh program. Pace will provide insurance coverage throughout the life of the agreement, and the initial term of the agreement is 2 years, after which the terms will remain in place until one of the parties terminates the agreement. The Pace Van Gogh service is expected to launch at Rosemont in July 2023. This concludes my remarks, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have no questions.
Director Lee?
Do we know if the vans some of them are wheelchair accessible?
I would have to look into that. I'm sorry, I don't know offhand.
Thank you.
Director Miller?
No question.
Chairman Barclay?
No question.
Director Ortiz?
I second Director Lee's comment. It'd be good to know. And I also appreciate the partnership.
Director Ja?
No questions.
I agree that is a good question, and we will find out the answer to that question or how they handle, just as importantly, how they handle customers who have disabilities that would need some sort of accessible transportation. So we'll get an answer to that and get that back to you.
Thank you.
There are no further questions, Director Jakes.
Now, may I now have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller and seconded by Director Ortiz. This ordinance does require a roll call vote. Director Ja? Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
The motion to place this item on the omnibus passes. Director Jakes, we may proceed to agenda item number 7.
Our next order of business is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of primary and excess property insurance coverage for policy year 2023. Stephen Wood.
Good morning. I'm Driver Todd. I don't know if the camera's on my laptop or not, but good morning. My name is Steve Wood, Deputy General Counsel in the CTA's Law Department. This is an ordinance to approve and authorize the renewal of 2023 to 2024 policy. This is a policy that live in July, and we renew it every year. Our brokers at Mesereau Alliance and our DBE Paradigm marketed the renewal of both to both domestic and international insurance markets, and a consortium of international domestic insurers has provided us with the best coverage and price. The proposed premium for next year's policy, including tax fees, approximately $6,615,000, which unfortunately is an increase of $1.2 million, 23% from last year. Rate increases in this area tend to be driven by 3 factors, 2 of which are favorable to the CTA, but unfortunately 1 is not. 2 favorable items for the CTA are that we did not have a dramatic increase in our net asset values or statement of values. Our increase was only about 1.3% from 7.2 billion to 7.3 billion. And we have not had another clean year of claims, making it 6 years in a row without any claims under this policy. Unfortunately, the market in the rail insurance industry is quite difficult for all policy holders in this area. We had anticipated earlier this year getting an increase of 25 to 30%. We were able to keep it under 25%, I think largely due to the safety we've shown not having any claims under our policy. But given that we anticipated a larger increase, we are somewhat happy to have it under that amount, somewhat relieved that it's only 23%, but we recommend renewal with this consortium, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Director Jakes, may I make a comment here?
Sure.
I'd like to make the board aware that Steve Wood is retiring DTA at the end of this month, and this will be his last report to the board. You've all seen Steve present, and for over 21 years, Steve's been an integral part of the law department. And for most of that time, he's been the CTA's ethics officer and has just done an outstanding, commendable job at everything he's taken on, which has just been an increasing avalanche of additional work. I can tell you that I'll miss Steve's calm advice and counsel and the wisdom he brings to everything he does, of legal and non-legal. Just allow me to take this opportunity to thank Steve for his many years of service to the authority and wish him the best of what's to come.
Thank you very much, Ken. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, let me just echo everything that Kent has just said about Steve. Steve is, 21 years at CTA, which means that you and I have worked together in more than one capacity. Steve's portfolio is very similar to the portfolio that I had when I used to be in the law department. So I, know how challenging it is to manage such a diversity of legal matters. But I also certainly have admired and appreciated the manner in which he has managed those responsibilities with the level of professionalism and dedication that all CTA employees should be proud of. Steve's reputation within CTA, not only as a stellar attorney, but also as our ethics officer, has resulted in no shortage of advice and counsel on a myriad of issues, for which I am very pleased that we've had no major scandals around the ethics area under Steve's tenure here. And it's certainly just one example of the leadership that he has shown in supporting CTA and making CTA a better place. I agree with Ken, Steve. We are going to miss you. You have been a consummate professional and a colleague and someone that I have looked to and admired during your career at CTA. And I look forward to seeing you in a much more relaxing environment at some point in time in the future. But thank you once again for all of your service to our agency.
Thank you, Doral. I appreciate that.
Well, Steve, as it relates to the property insurance coverage, I have no questions. But as it relates to your retirement, congratulations. Just had an opportunity just to converse with you on a business level for a few years now. But from what I'm hearing from Kent and from President is that you leave something that most people would learn from, and that's a legacy. So thank you for leaving a legacy. I don't believe anybody, based on what they said, could walk in your shoes because they shouldn't. Because your shoes are going to be on vacation. It's good that you leave a great legacy, and I really hope you enjoy the next 75 years.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Steve, I'd like to thank you for your service to the CTA and for being our resident expert in all things ethics, insurance, and appellate practice. Those subjects tend to be dense and complex, but you've made a way of providing this information with precision and clarity. Facilitating an ethics training or presenting an ordinance to the board, you've always provided thorough and informative analysis to help the board in its decision-making process. Thank you for your counsel and guidance to the board and to the CTA. Congratulations on your retirement and your future.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you again for your service. It's much appreciated. I think someone with that kind of tenure to the CTA just offers both just a wealth of knowledge. So to the extent that you can transfer any little bit to the next people coming over or leave any tips for them, I think that would be really helpful. On that note, also, I recognize that 23% is a high jump. We talked yesterday at the briefing that it's just kind of where the market is. But any thoughts or recommendations on how do we prep for that for, our next round of quotes would be really appreciated, or just in general, how we as an agency need to prepare for those kinds of challenges.
Right. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck with the retirement. Wishing you all the best.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to using my retiree transit pass. So. On the system frequently.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Director Jakes, I don't think we have any other questions or comments, and congratulations on it. It's been a pleasure working with you on 2 ethics matters in the last 9 days. We kind of know each other quite well, and I have appreciated meeting and your candor and your demeanor and your wisdom. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Georgia.
May I now have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second. It has been moved by Director Miller and seconded by Director Ortiz. This ordinance does require a roll call vote. Director Lee? Yes. Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz? Yes. Director Ja?
Yes.
The motion passes. Director Jakes, we now may proceed to agenda item number 8.
Our next order of business today is the review of contract number A1 through A2 transit operations. Ellen McCormick.
Good morning, Director.
Good morning. Good morning.
So the first item we have is A1, and it is the contractor, it is a contract change order recommendation. We are asking the board to approve funding for the options for the 22 remaining electric buses. That will bring, if this is approved, that will bring the total number of e-buses from Proterra to 45, which is the maximum amount we can get under this contract.
I have no questions.
Director Lee?
No question.
Director Miller?
No question.
Chairman Barclay? Director Ortiz? Director Ja?
No questions, but love seeing the numbers. Electric buses on this. Thank you.
There are more on the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Director Jakes, you may proceed to contracts number B1 through B4.
Our next order of business today is the review of contracts B1 through B4 contract awards for infrastructure. Ellen McCormick.
Georgette, I believe we missed A2. Could we go back to A2?
Absolutely.
So this is a named partner agreement with the with CET, which is the Center for Transportation and the Environment. It is a professional consulting agreement. We are using it in conjunction with an FTA low or no emissions grant. In which we will be purchasing with this project, which is to electrify the 103rd Street bus garage. CTE will be helping us with the future procurements that we have, including the purchase of 6 electric buses and the installation of electric bus chargers at 103rd Street bus garage.
I have no questions.
Director Lee? Questions? Director Miller?
No question.
Chairman Barclay?
No questions.
Director Ortiz? None. Director Ja?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
Okay, so,
Now proceed to contracts B1 through B4.
okay, go ahead, Ellen. Now we're on B1 through B4.
Okay, so thank you for B1. It is an invitation for bid, and we are recommending award to Christopher Glass Services Incorporated. The amount of the contract is $2,100,000.
I have no questions.
Director Lee?
No questions.
Director Miller?
No question.
Chairman Barclay?
No questions.
Director Ortiz? None. Director Ja?
No questions.
Our next order of business today is the review of contract number F1 through F2, contract awards for administration. Ellen and Tom.
Julie, I think Ellen, are you going to go through B2 through B4?
I can if it's required, but if not, then we can proceed to F1. Would the board like me to go through them, or if there are no questions, would you like to proceed to F1?
We may proceed to F1 through F2.
So F1 is a contract change order recommendation. We are requesting a contract an increase in the amount of $10,491. And this is additional funding for the extension period while we continue to work on the procurement. There are no questions. F2 is a contract to provide parts and supplies using federal funds for up to 60 months. We are recommending award to 4 contractors: Genuine Parts Company, the Aftermath Parts Company, Dependable Bus and Equipment, which is a DBE, and Transit and Coach Parts, Inc. These contracts will allow the purchasing department to get the supplies necessary to run our buses, and it allows us to use federal funds.
Ellen, how often as a board, we have to approve the contracts for getting supplies for our buses? Is it because we're doing it through federal funds?
You mean the reason we're doing it here? The reason we're doing it here is because we're actually awarding the contracts. If the board authorizes, once we award the contracts, we don't bring the individual orders to you. It would hold things up and be an incredible amount of reporting we would do for you.
Yeah.
No. Mr. President.
That wasn't your question, was it?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I think your question was, how often do we have these types of contracts?
Right.
To present to the board?
Right.
Is there a term for this contract?
Right, yes.
You go back up.
Oh, yes. Ellen, what's the term of the contract itself? How long does the contract in place?
The term is 3 years with 2 one-year options.
Which that tends to be the case for all of our contracts. If it's longer than a 5-year period, we would inform you of that as part of the recommendation itself.
All right, thank you. I have no questions on F1 and 2.
Okay, are there any other questions on contracts number F1 and F2? Director Miller?
No question.
Chairman Barclay?
No question.
Director Ortiz? None. Director Ja?
No questions.
Director Jakes, we may now proceed to contract number G1.
Our next order of business today is the review of contract G1, a contract award for technology, Ellen and Caroline.
This is a contract change order recommendation. We're requesting the authority to add $700,000, which is a 24.47% increase. And it is to allow our IT department to purchase additional licenses and support.
I have no questions.
Director Ja,
No questions.
Director Ortiz, Chairman Barclay,
No question.
Director Miller,
No questions.
Director Lee,
None.
Director Jakes. We may now proceed to contract number J1 through J2.
Our next order of business today is the review of contract number J1 through J2, contract award for law, Ellen McCormick and Kent Ray.
So this is a contract order recommendation. We are requesting approval for the board, and it is approved the authority to add $26,000 to the contract in order to allow the procurement process to proceed and to have uninterrupted services. There are no questions. J2.
No, can you speak on that a little bit more for me, Ella or Kent?
This is for our law department legal research.
Okay.
We're in the process of going out and it's taking a little longer. So this is to carry us over.
Okay. Does this happen also every year? Not the contract. Now I'm not talking about the contract, but the increase.
No, and it's not an increase. For this, it's just a continuation until we complete the procurement process.
Okay.
Correct, Ellen?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Director Ja,
Questions.
Director Ortiz,
None.
Chairman Barclay,
None.
Director Miller,
No questions.
Director Lee,
None.
Our next order of business today is the review of contract number K1, a contract awards for innovation, Ellen McCormick, Molly Copy, and Malik. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. Malik.
This is a sole source contract in which we intend to order parts and offsite services for our Gen Fair bus fare boxes. It is a sole source because there's no one else who can provide the parts and services to maintain these fare boxes.
I have no questions.
Director Lee,
No questions.
Director Miller,
No questions.
Chairman Barclay,
No questions.
Director Ortiz, Director Ja,
No questions.
Director Jakes. We have no further questions.
Since there are no further questions on the contracts, may I have leave to place the 12 contracts on the omnibus?
So move.
Second. It has been moved by Director Miller and seconded by Director Ortiz. Director Lee? Yes. Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Ja?
Yes.
The vote passes.
Since there is no further business to come before the committee, may I have a motion to approve the omnibus and recommend the omnibus for board approval?
So move.
Second. It has been properly moved by Director Miller and seconded by Director Ortiz. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
The motion to approve the omnibus passes. Director Jakes, you may now proceed to committee agenda item number 9.
Finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Ja?
Yes.
The committee meeting on finance, audit, and budget is adjourned. Jack Greenlee
Hold on,
the
hold on.
sec-
Let me count down.
All right.
Recording
All
in
right, going live
progress.
in 3,
Bilingual thing going.
1.
Good morning. My name is Georgette Greenlee. I'm Secretary of the Board for the Chicago Transit Authority. Chairman Barclay, I think we're ready to begin.
Thank you, Ms. Greenlee. Good morning. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Chicago Transit Board for June 16th, 2023. Georgette, please call the roll.
Director Lee. Here. Director Miller.
Here.
Chairman Barclay.
Here.
Director Jakes.
Here.
Director Ortiz. Here. Director Ja. Here. Chairman Barclay, you do have a quorum.
Thank you. Our first order of business is public comment. Georgette?
Mr. Chairman, we had 3 public commentators this month: Patricia Fuentes, Ken Gottlicker, and Garland Armstrong. I do not believe that Patricia Fuentes, however, is here. So we will begin with Keanu Gottlicker. Yes, you may approach, have a seat. I want to remind you that you have 3 minutes and that we ask that your comments not be directed to any one of the board members in particular, and that you stick to the comments on the form that you sent us.
Okay.
Are you ready to proceed?
Thank you.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, President Carter, thank you for the opportunity to present my comment. My name is Fabio Getliker, and I'm a member of Commuters Take Action, a local collective of writers advocating for better transit. First off, I would like to express my gratitude for reactivating the Citizens Advisory Board. Looking forward to it. That the schedule is presented for the 4% cut compared to January 2023 and a 13% cut compared to pre-pandemic. 5 bus routes saw a new reduction of over 20%. At Commuters Take Action, we welcome a timetable that's accurate and predictable for riders. However, this reduction goes against President Carter's reports of past several months. Mr. Carter has been telling us that he's been able to hire hundreds of new bus operators and that service has been improving. If that's the case, how come these schedules are getting more cuts? All we're asking for is honesty. Don't claim that the workforce levels are improving and then cut service even more. The way in which these service changes are communicated could be more honest too. Despite seeing a service reduction of 18% on the L and 13% on buses, the CTA never once mentions service cuts or reductions. Mr. Carter, a few months ago, you expressed frustrations over the riders not understanding your so-called optimizations. Maybe call them what they really are, service cuts. I will be clear. 2 weeks ago, Taylor Swift sold out 3 nights at Soldier Field, and CTA was eager to advertise itself as the best way to get there. Several members of Commuters Take Action were present at the venue to observe the situation. What we saw was an amateurish operation. While there were over a dozen extra buses ready to take concert goers home, the boarding situation was painfully slow. Despite there being a line of several hundred people, the CTA was only boarding 1 bus at a time with only front door boarding and a slow fare collection, and each bus took almost 10 minutes to fill up. At the Roosevelt station, huge crowds formed at turnstiles and the platforms, and Red Line operated with many headways of over 20 minutes, despite being scheduled at 7 to 12. This crowding could turn dangerous really quick. On that Friday night, only 26 out of 36 scheduled Red Line trains. If that's the service we're providing, we should just let folks ride for free. This is not worth paying for. Lastly, I want to point to a recent Block Club article which highlighted President Carter's Ventra usage. 24 times over 2 years is just dismal. But furthermore, it should outrage us all that the CTA spokesman claimed that Carter rides the CTA more often and that he just doesn't tap his Ventra card. CTA, however, required that all employees use their Ventra card when using when riding. I believe that a principled CTA president should not be allowed to be above the rules. Thank you for your attention, and I hope these issues will be addressed soon. Feel free to reach out to Commuters Take Action to discuss these further. Again.
And that's time. Our next presenter is Garland Armstrong.
Good morning. Garland Armstrong, formerly of Des Plaines, Illinois, now living in Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm glad to be back in the Chicagoland area. It's been 2 years since I left the Chicagoland area and moving to Des Moines. My biggest concern is I saw on Twitter in New York City, they're installing the glass part doors. So like when people who are trying to jump on the tracks in the New York City subway, and I said, sounds like a good idea so people will not be able to be hit by a train when they're coming to the station. And I would like to know if CTA could use that idea from the New York City subway. So like when the trains are coming into the station, like installing the glass doors so that they will not be the next intended victim on the electric tracks, because it really irks me that I see more people are being on the electric tracks all the time, and they should know that is called killer deaths on there, and it's a lack of communication. And I think we need to educate the general public in all different languages to know what electric is, because they have no idea and they think it'll never affect me. So I think they need to see it, communicate in all walks of life so that they'll know what it is, because they think they're strong enough and they can survive it, but only time will tell. Their bodies will be shaking like thunder and lightning. So I thought I would like to bring this up to y'all so you could use this as a pilot program like New York City subway system is installing. So here in the Chicagoland area, we won't have the next victims being hit or being electrocuted on the tracks. So it really hurts me. So another dead person on there, and it makes me very sick of it. So I just would like y'all to know, think about it and see what y'all think you could do about it. And I'll be glad to answer any questions or comments if you have anything to say while I'm here.
Mr. Armstrong, that concludes your comment. We thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody. And it's so great to see y'all again, and new faces and current ones. So deeply emotionally glad to be back. And thank you for everything. I'm still going to be watching y'all on YouTube and everything.
Okay. Chairman?
Thank you to our public commenters. We do take everything to heart. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and concerns.
I do have a question. I didn't realize we had to register for public comment, but I am a citizen of Chicago and I do have a short public comment.
That you register. Is it a comment that can wait till next month?
It's very important and I will be very brief.
What's your name?
My name is Bill Morton. I'm the president of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce.
If it's brief.
It will be brief.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Morton. My name is Georgette Green. I'm secretary of the board. We'll have 3 minutes to speak. We ask that you not direct your comments to any named person in particular who is here in the meeting. And you may begin.
Chairman and the board. I'm Bill Morton. I'm president of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce for 14 years, longtime Rogers Park resident and lifelong Chicagoan. My issue is on the Jarvis and the Morse Red Line stations. They're being redeveloped soon. They've been redeveloped before, but still we don't have elevators for people with disabilities. I thought it was law that it had to be ADA accessible. I'm very upset, and our community is very upset that people who are disabled or elderly cannot use those two stations. And that is my comment. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
For your comment. Any comments for
Just want to say thank you for everyone taking the time to be here and hear your concerns, and thank you. Understand.
Yeah, I echo the sentiments of Director Lee. Thank you so much for sharing with us that we hear you. Thank you. We hear you.
Okay. Our next item of business on the agenda is our president's report, which was given by our president, Dorval Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, good morning. Today, I'm excited to discuss some of the initiatives CTA has pursued over the course of the past month. I'm especially looking forward to sharing some key findings from the customer survey. Staff updated and analyzed the results of that survey, and it has provided some key takeaways regarding our customer CTA travel experiences, what they appreciate most, and the areas they want us to focus on improvement. Since the start of the COVID pandemic, we've administered multiple customer surveys, which are critically important tools for CTA. In fact, the information we gather from our riders' responses helps to inform our decision-making and are vital as we work to improve service. Our most recent survey from the first quarter of 2023 was the third quarterly survey we conducted since the launch of our Meeting the Moment action plan. It provides for interesting and encouraging comparisons, results from surveys administered during the third, fourth quarters of 2022. Michael Connolly, our Chief Planning Officer, is going to walk through the survey results in more detail, but I do want to point out a few results that show customers are experiencing improvements in service reliability, which is a key pillar of our action plan. The survey showed increased satisfaction across all survey categories for bus service when measured against the results from both previous surveys. The same is true for rail service, although the increases in satisfaction are not as dramatic as bus by percentage. Finally, across both weekends and weekdays, survey respondents were more likely to agree that buses and trains arrived when expected in the first quarter of 2023 survey than in the fourth quarter of 2022. This is another very important metric that we are watching very closely. With leave from the chairman, I would now like to invite Mike to provide a closer and more detailed look at the first quarter survey results.
Good morning, Chairman. I'm pleased to be able to share with you the results from the first quarter survey of 2023 here. CTA began doing quarterly surveys during the third quarter of 2022 to provide more frequent information on customer satisfaction and on their travel patterns during the COVID recovery period. The focus of today's presentation is the results from the quarterly survey conducted in the first quarter of this year, and it was administered between February 6th and February 28th. As the president mentioned, this is our third survey in this series. We performed these surveys in both English and Spanish. Customers were recruited primarily through their Ventre email account, which they gave us permission to contact them for survey work. We used some outreach using park cards on buses and trains. And we also did some flyering in specific areas where we wanted to get a more robust survey response from certain parts of the city. This survey, we saw over 2,100 completed surveys, 88 of them in Spanish, which is statistically valid for what we're looking for here. With each survey, we included some questions that stay consistent from survey to survey, and some questions that are different on these quarterly surveys. The focus topics that we had for the first quarter of 2023 included personal security on the system and service reliability. If you would put on the next slide there. This first chart is about our customer satisfaction with service on the bus system. It highlights the good news that Meeting the Moment has increased satisfaction with all bus service attributes. The yellow bars at the top of each survey element there lists the satisfaction for the first quarter survey of this year. The middle or purple bar in the cluster is the rating for the fourth quarter of 2022. And the lowest bar in green is the rating for the third quarter of 2022. On each attribute, you can see that bus customers are more satisfied this quarter than they were last fall. While satisfaction with all of the attributes has improved, the three attributes with the lowest satisfaction ratings last fall and winter are also where satisfaction has increased the most from last fall to the first quarter of this year. All three showed substantial improvement. Scores for accuracy of the bus tracker information, third from the bottom, increased by 10%. Satisfaction with wait time for the next bus was the second from the bottom, increased by 9%. And satisfaction with the reliability of the bus service itself increased by 13%. This would suggest that the optimized schedules and the enhancement to the bus track information has led to satisfaction with bus service this year than we saw last year, 2022. This next chart outlines the levels of customer satisfaction with rail service attributes. Again, the yellow bar is the first survey result. The middle or purple bar is the fourth quarter, 2022, and the green bar is for the third quarter. Slightly less good news than among bus customers. However, in all cases, respondent satisfaction with each attribute for rail service has improved. Not quite as dramatic as some of the bus responses, but improvement nonetheless. The second attribute from the top in this slide is the accuracy of real-time arrival information. This is up by 7%. So our customers are much more satisfied. We optimize the rail schedules and we enhance the train tracker system, which both seem to have made a difference to our customers. The second from the bottom set of bars shows that satisfaction with personal security at rail stations is up by 8%. And on the bottom attribute, personal security while riding the train, satisfaction is up by 1% for the last quarter of last year. On to the next slide, if you would. When asked whether the respondents agreed that buses and trains arrived when they were expected to, customers were more likely to agree that both buses and trains are more reliable this quarter in the first quarter of this year compared with quarter 4 of 2022, which is shown in purple. The yellow bar is from February of this year. The customers reported a higher overall satisfaction with the reliability. The bar graphs are showing the results for weekends and weekdays and for bus and for rail. And so for both bus and for rail and for weekdays and for weekends, respondents ranked reliability higher in the first quarter of this year than in the last quarter of 2022. If you would go to the next slide there. One question that we did ask specifically of our riders was related to what would encourage them to use CTA more frequently. You know that we've been reporting to you and watching our ridership levels, and we're interested in increasing the ridership. So we asked our customers, what would make you ride more frequently? We wanted to engage them and ask them what would bring them back to ride more. We provided 11 potential improvements for our riders to rank. This chart compares responses to these factors for all respondents, for frequent riders, and for infrequent riders. Now, the frequent riders are those that ride once or twice a week. The infrequent riders are riders that only ride once or maybe twice a month. So there's a difference between those frequent and infrequent riders. In this graph, we track those responses. The center column in here is for all respondents. The next one to it to the right is for the frequent riders, and the one to the far right is for the infrequent riders. In this question, we saw that infrequent riders were more concerned about personal safety than those who regularly use the system. You can see that the factors which would encourage these infrequent riders to use the system are better security on board and in stations, as well as better real-time information. For frequent riders and for all riders, the number one factor, which they said would encourage them to ride more, would be if service were more frequent during the weekdays. We believe this is important direction from our customers as we strive to increase ridership in these post-pandemic times. The riders are telling us they want more frequent service, and that would bring them back and have them ride. We'll keep you posted with these results and continuing service. And I want to thank you for taking the time to talk about the surveys today.
Do you have any questions for Mike?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Members of the board, as you heard from Mike, although we aren't where we need and want to be, we are moving in the right direction. We continue to rebound from the lingering effects of the pandemic and its effect on our workforce numbers. But as I've noted before, this is going to take some time. I've always believed that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And as much as I would like to see immediate results to what we would view as normal service, I recognize, and I would point out, as do many of my peers across the country, that it's going to take time for us to get back to a pre-pandemic level of ridership as well as service. In the meantime, we are going to continue to work very hard to improve our service for our customers. And I'm certainly encouraged by the direction that we're moving in. Alongside this important customer feedback, we also accrue and analyze data across all CTA departments to help ascertain how to better improve our performance, which for nearly a year I've been presenting to the public via our Meeting of the Moment scorecard. The latest scorecard does show continual improvement in lowering double and triple headway since we began service optimization last fall. Our schedules are now consistently matching bus service at around 93 to 95%. of the time and our rail service around 90%. And just to be clear, as I've always stated, this is matching our optimized level of service. It is not the service that we were providing prior to the pandemic. We do not refer to it as a service cut because it is our intention to restore that service once we get our workforce up to a level that allows us to do that. If I were to implement a service cut, it would be a permanent reduction in service. That is not what we are doing. When we get the workforce back up, and we're making progress on that, and I'll discuss that in just a second, we will restore service back. And in fact, there have been some places where we've already started to restore service on a limited basis as we've been able to meet those needs. Our bus operator headcount, which has seen a net increase for 6 months in a row, is a positive development. We have hired now up to 432 new operators this year, which is more than halfway to our annual goal of 700. The thing to keep in mind with regards to the hiring that we're doing is that I'm also working against retirements and resignations. And so the numbers are not reflective necessarily of where our workforce needs to be for full service, but the process by which we will get to a place where we can do that. It's certainly my anticipated desire that over the course of the next year, service will start to be restored on CTA, and you'll start to see that improvement occur as we move forward. In the meantime, what I've been doing with service optimization is creating less service, but more reliable service. That was my goal from the very beginning. That has always been my objective with the strategy. And what the data is showing us is that that strategy is working. Service may not be coming as frequently as it did in a pre-pandemic environment, but you know that it's going to be there. That was the problem we faced before I put this strategy into place. Not only was the service not coming, so from that standpoint, you weren't getting the service that I was scheduling to begin with, but you also didn't know when it was going to arrive because it was extremely unreliable because of the schedules that I had in place. The schedule adjustments that we have made have addressed those problems. And we're seeing that both in terms of the frequency of service that we're providing. We're also seeing it in the ability to meet those schedules as we anticipated. We're also seeing it in our customer survey results, as Mike just explained to you, in terms of what our customers are saying about the service that they're receiving now. This is not the end game. That's the point that I want to make here. This is an interim strategy to get us back to the end game, which is the full restoration of service as we get to the place where our workforce can accommodate that on a reliable basis. On the rail side, I also want to mention that we have a new rail operator class in April that will help slow down the impact of transfers and attrition that we're anticipating that we've been experiencing there. And those numbers are also about to improve from where they've been in the past. I also want to inform the board that we are also planning further enhancements to our scorecard dashboard. Internally, our performance management group tracks many key performance indicators on all aspects of CJ's operations. We publish some of their monthly indicators on our website as a PDF report. Starting in the very near future, we are going to be launching a public-facing dashboard that directly ties into our interface that will provide many of the meeting the moment metrics, as well as several others that we are not reporting at this point in time. And so that our customers, as well as the general public, will be able to dive into the same data that we dive into to look at our performance and measure where we are being successful and where we are having challenges. I've said for nearly a year, to improve our service, we must continue to execute the strategy behind our aggressive hiring and recruitment, hiring recruitment marketing campaign. And I'm encouraged by the work that is happening to achieve that goal. On May 19th, we hosted a career fair here at headquarters for both bus operators and mechanics. It's our 6th hiring event of the year. And we've been encouraged by the turnout of these events in 2023, which have exceeded almost 1,800 participants this year alone. Yesterday, I celebrated the graduation of another 100 employees who have successfully completed their training and are now in service. These employees include bus operators, rail operators, bus mechanics, rail flaggers, controllers, and customer service assistants. For those interested in working at the CTA as a bus operator or bus mechanic, I also want to inform the public that we will be hosting our next information session on June 22nd. I want to take a moment to thank our staff across every department involved who are working very hard to recruit, train, and bring on board as many new members of the CTA family as possible every single day. We also have some temporary, yet no less exciting new hires coming aboard next week. On Tuesday, we will welcome 225 one summer Chicago interns to CTA. And I'm very happy to tell you that this is the largest class of high schoolers we have ever hosted as part of this program. CTA is a proud member of the One Summer Chicago family of public and private employers that give young people an opportunity to earn some money while on their summer break. We are also excited to provide them with an opportunity to work with transit professionals and to get a glimpse into what a career in public transit could look like. This program is yet another opportunity for transit to build our bench, so to speak. And I have been impressed with many of the young people who have worked with us in summers past. In fact, I continue to hold out hope that one of those individuals will someday be either a CTA president, a board chairman, or chairwoman, or director, among many other things that are in their potential. The other thing that I want to point out about our One Summer Chicago program is that it's not just an employment program. Every participant in One Summer Chicago gets paired up with a CTA employee who serves as their mentor over the course of the summer, providing them advice on how to behave in a work environment, supporting them in terms of developing the type of skills for interviewing and things of that nature. And so we take a holistic approach to our interns to prepare them not only to be successful for this summer, but to be successful in the future as they pursue their career opportunities wherever they may be it at CTA or some other employer of their choice. It is a tremendously powerful program, one that I think is a model for what we need to do throughout the city and throughout the country. And we certainly have been very pleased with the level of participation that we have. I want to give a shout out to Geisha Esther and the training development group who oversee this program. They do a tremendous job and they care very much about the participants. And I know that this summer will be another fascinating opportunity for these participants. And at some point in time, as is our tradition, we will be creating an opportunity for the participants to meet the board so that you can convey your thoughts to them directly about the work that they're doing and the opportunity that they got here at CTA. Now that we've added equipment to our third bus facility to support electric buses, which is a recent development, some of those newly hired bus operators that I just mentioned earlier will likely find themselves operating electric buses on the south side of Chicago. In May, we were happy to announce that our newest fully accessible all-electric buses have been rolled out on our number 63 63rd Street route. Supporting electrification at a Southside garage helps CTA achieve several goals. First, the number 63 route is a busy one. It serves approximately 2.4 million riders in 2022. This is also a particularly equitable expansion of the electric bus service, allowing us to serve a community with higher pollution levels that also includes some of our most transit-reliant customer populations. Finally, I want to close with a topic that I find very promising, our ridership. Summer vacation has begun for local universities and public and private schools. As a result, we expect the inevitable seasonal ridership dips that come during this time of year. With that in mind, we all know that there are a few places on earth that can match the fun offered by summertime in Chicago. We are hopeful that the Chicagoans and visitors will attend the many events, festivals, programs, and celebrations happening over the next 2.5 months will use the CTA to get there to their various destinations. In terms of our current ridership, the trends and promising milestones, we generally continue to see a slow but steady level of ridership increases system-wide. There are several items, however, that I believe are worthy to bring to your attention. Last week, CTA provided 5.634 million rides for our customers, making it our biggest week since the pandemic began. Also, system ridership during the first Friday and Saturday of June at 893,000 and 663,000 respectively were the second busiest Friday and Saturday ridership patterns that we've had since the pandemic. The Sueños Music Festival, I think I said that correctly, was held downtown during Memorial Day weekend and hosted some of the biggest names in Latino music and added about 55,000 rail rides on both Saturday and Sunday. Big transit event for us. Finally, the Swifties did show up in a big way for the Taylor Swift concert on CTA. Taylor Swift's recent 3-day concert series at Soldier Field added some 13,000 to 15,000 rides each day, including bus and rail. The impact was especially felt at our Roosevelt station, which had about 11,000 to 13,000 total entries each day. That represents about 5 to 6 times more rides than normal. Represents the 3 biggest days at that station since the pandemic hit. So I'm a very big fan of Taylor Swift at this point. We've seen an increase in new ridership milestones throughout the spring and early summer, and I'm convinced that we will see our first million ride day sometime this fall. We will do all, as I've indicated in the past, that we can continue to build on these trends in the months that come ahead and to help entice and attract our riders back to transit. And I look forward to giving the board more detail on what we're doing to support and entice our ridership in return, as well as the measures we continue to do to improve our service on a day-to-day basis. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, President Carter, for the update. I continue to be encouraged by the progress made, so particularly in the areas of bus operator hires. Mark, congratulations to you and the team for reaching the milestone of hiring over 300 operators. The team has put a great deal of thought into our hire initiatives, and we're starting to see the difference it's making in our service delivery. I look forward to even more positive results as we continue to hire more operators. I'm very pleased with the customer-centered approach to the marketing initiatives that we'll start introducing to our riders. It's a fresh approach to our messaging, and I look forward to seeing how our ridership responds to it. Regarding the customer survey, as I mentioned at briefings, from a communications perspective, I'd like to see us give more visibility to our efforts of getting input directly from our ridership. We've seen and heard the media coverage of surveys conducted by others, but the public isn't hearing enough from us about our work in this area, which can result in negative and inaccurate narrative that CT isn't listening to riders. I understand and appreciate not wanting to get ahead of ourselves, but that shouldn't keep us from sharing our progress along the way. For example, I was riding a couple of weeks ago a bus and heard the public service announcements that we have cameras all over our system. We had made that suggestion a number of months ago to serve as a deterrent to crime and things like that, just to let people know that we are watching. And I was very pleased to hear that public service announcement on the bus when I was riding. As well, we've talked about the cameras that are going to be, I call them the 7-Eleven store type cameras that are going to be on some of our stations and some of our trains and possible buses, so that people can know that if you commit a crime on CTA, we're watching every aspect of what goes on our service. We want our customers to feel safe. So when I see these kinds of ideas that are being implemented, I'm pleased that you're listening to what the board is suggesting and what the public is suggesting as well. Another customer-focused approach I'm pleased to see on the agenda today is the convening of the Citizens Advisory Board. As you know, that's near and dear to my heart because that's where I started. I was glad to see the high level of interest in serving on the advisory board as we received over 130 applications. The Citizens Advisory Board provides another great source of feedback from our ridership, and CTA will benefit from hearing the constructive input from this body. In turn, the members of the advisory board will greatly benefit from learning more about the agency and the amount of detailed process and hard work that goes into making it run. Lastly, I want to make it clear that the board understands that this is by no means a victory lap and that we have a lot more work to do to earn our customers' confidence to return to the system. but I believe it's important to acknowledge areas of improvement along the way. So to that end, kudos and congratulations to the team, and let's keep moving in the direction of positive progress. At this time, I'd like to open it up to any other board members who may have any comments in response to President Carter's remarks.
President Carter, I do have a question. As you're restoring service, do you find that there are areas that are affected more than other areas as it relates to the restoration of service? And if so, will they get first priority as you're restoring service?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, which is when I start to restore service, how will we do it? I think what I will say is that clearly we're going to be focused on equity and accessibility as a foundational principle for how we will go about doing that. As you know, there are parts of the city that have much more robust service than other parts of the city. That has been a historical reality of the way our system is operated. Certainly, we're going to look at that as we make the decisions on where and how to restore service back. The other thing that we will obviously be doing, there is a effort that's underway right now that will be releasing and engaging in a public discussion around the entire view of our entire bus system. Our bus system hasn't been given a holistic review probably in the last 100 years. This was a process that we had begun before the pandemic hit and basically had to defer because of the pandemic itself. We are now ready to get that process underway again. And so we are going to be going out to the communities and having not only a conversation around restoration of our service, discussed it, but how we should be modifying that service to reflect the travel patterns of our customers today. This, what is referred to as a bus vision study, is a huge undertaking by our planning department, but it's one that's going to really give us a lot of customer input, feedback, and ideas about how we should be shaping our bus system as we move forward, and how we ultimately will integrate their ideas into a bus system that not only provides service to all the communities that we serve, but provides it in a way that allows them to get to where they want to go. I'm excited about the effort we're about to undertake. I think it'll be a tremendous dialogue that we'll have with the community directly. It'll obviously be something that we'll be discussing with the Citizens Advisory Board as well as the board as we move forward. But I think it's going to be an opportunity to really reimagine our bus service in a productive way, in a productive dialogue with our customers that will result in a better bus service than we currently have, and one that will align nicely with the other efforts that I'll be engaging in to restore the level of service over the course of the same period of time.
And then my second question, Mr. Chairman, is okay? Yes. Okay. My second question is, so you had what do you call Swifties?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what my daughter says. That I'm from school.
Yes. Because I'm a husband, so. But now you got to have the beehives coming in July.
Yes.
So based upon what was done to provide extra service then, have they responded to you to say, okay, we probably can do this a little bit better so that when that group comes in, the beehives, wherever they are, that you will see that, okay, we need to do this that may not have happened here?
So I think a couple of things to take away from our experience over the past weekend. One, it's important to remember that when 12,000 people show up at a CTA station all at the same time, there's going to be crowded. It isn't going to be easy. It's going to take time for us to get those people through. I would suggest to you that there's no other mobility option you could pick at Soldier Field at the same time that's going to provide you with any better option for the same thing. When you wait for an Uber car or a Lyft or anything else, everyone's going to experience that. It's the nature of the beast. To some degree, we haven't been used to that because we've been in a pandemic. So you haven't had huge crowds showing up at the same time to do that. There are techniques that we use to support that type of effort. We did take a look at what we did during the Taylor Swift concert and did make some adjustments during the course of the weekend to address some concerns that we had. But I don't want anyone in the public to think that when you get out of a concert that you're not going to have a crowded situation on CTA. Before the pandemic, we had the same issue. It is the reality of large numbers of people congregating in one place. The good thing is that, we're running service and we move the people out of there as quickly as possible. Our objective, and it will be our objective going forward. We will continue to work with the organizers of these events, with the city and OEMC, with the police department to make sure we're coordinating how we're handling crowds under those circumstances, with the obvious objective, the paramount objective being to make sure everybody can get safely back to their destination. And with that in mind, yes, we have done a sort of a review of what went well, what didn't go well, what we can improve on for the next time. And we will be integrating those into future events as we go through the summer.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, President Carter. Our next order of business is the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of May 10th, 2023. May I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Director Miller and Director Ja that the minutes be approved. Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Ja? The motion to approve the minutes passes.
Our next order of business is executive session. It's my understanding, Kent, that there's an executive session here today.
Yes, Chairman, I recommend a motion to move into executive session pursuant to the Illinois Open Meetings Act, sections 2C2, 2C11, and 2C21.
I will now entertain a motion to recess into executive session as for reasons stated by council.
So move.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ortiz that we move into executive session. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yeah.
The motion passes.
Recording in progress.
I will now entertain a motion to return to open session.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved by Director Jakes and seconded by Director Ortiz. Director Lee? Yes. Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz? Yes. Director Ja? Yes. The motion passes to return to open session.
We will now address board item 5A. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. For item 5A, the board reviews the closed session meeting minutes from May 10th, 2023.
Thank you, Kent. May I have a motion to approve the closed session minutes for May 10th, 2023?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved by Director Jakes, seconded by Director Ortiz. Director Ja? Yes. Director Ortiz? Yes. Director Jakes?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Lee? Yes. The motion to approve the closed session minutes for May 10th, 2023 passes.
We will now address board agenda item 5B. Kent.
Thank you, Chairman. With respect to item 5B, the board considered a proposed memorandum of agreement with the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 308 relating to the compensation of employees working as line instructors.
Thank you, Kent. May I have a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement with the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 308?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved by Director Jakes, seconded by Director Ortiz. Director Ja? Yes. Director Ortiz? Yes. Director Jakes?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Lee? Yes. The motion to approve item 5B passes.
We will now address board agenda item 5C. Kent.
Thank you, Chairman. In closed session, the board discussed the lawsuit of Dion Griffin versus Chicago Transit Authority, which is pending in the Circuit Court of Cook County. This litigation involves an accident that occurred on March 11th, 2021, near the intersection of 71st Street and South Shore Drive. The parties have negotiated a tentative settlement subject to board approval, and the plaintiff has indicated that he will accept in full settlement of this lawsuit sum of $4,750,000.
Thank you, Kent. May I have a motion to approve a settlement in the case of Griffin versus Chicago Transit Authority, case number 21L002906 in the amount of $4,750,000.
So moved.
Second. It's been properly moved by Director Jakes and seconded by Director Ortiz that we approve the settlement in the matter of Griffin versus the Chicago Transit Authority. We will take a roll call vote. Director Ja? Yes. Director Ortiz? Yes. Director Jakes?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Lee? Yes. The motion passes.
Thank you. I think before we move on to the next matter, President Carter, you had a comment that you wanted to make.
Yes, thank you. When I was giving you my report, I spent a good deal of time obviously talking about the progress that we were making in our service delivery and the customer experience. That is obviously a critical component to our ability to get our ridership back and maintain the ridership we have. I think it's important that the board be aware of the fact that none of that work comes easily. I have a extremely dedicated operational team that is putting out that bus and rail service every day, that are working diligently to make sure that we are putting out the best service we possibly can on a day-to-day basis. As I indicated to you before, we carry over 900,000 people every day. We strive for everyone to have a positive experience on CTA, but we know that we're not perfect. And for any number of reasons on any given day, your experience may be something stellar, or it may be something that's less than what our standards are for what we want to do. But that's not without the efforts every day to try to achieve excellence. And certainly you see that in what we're doing in terms of our performance metrics. While you hear a lot about complaints about our service, you don't necessarily hear the same amount about the compliments or commendations on our service. Some of that is because people don't give us commendations for something that they expect, which is service that is clean, on time, and efficient. But when they do, it is noted, and we do make sure that our employees know about it. In this particular case, I just want to be clear that the efforts that I get the opportunity to present to you here board meetings of the success and the work that we're doing are the direct result of hundreds of people who are working behind me, who are making that happen in both my operations group and my infrastructure group. And without them, I wouldn't be in a position to tell you the good things I pass on to you every day. So I just wanted to make that acknowledgement and make sure that the board was aware of sort of the effort that everyone is putting in right now to address the challenges that we all recognize are extremely serious and need to be addressed for CTA to get back to a healthy place.
Thank you, President Carter. Our next order of business is board matters. Georgette, do we have any board matters?
Chairman Barclay, we have two board matters on the agenda today. The first is a resolution setting the date and time of the June 2023 Chicago Transit Board regular meeting. Pursuant to the statute, and notice regarding the meeting date change was published in a local newspaper, the Sun-Times, and posted at the headquarters of CTA.
May I have a motion to approve a resolution setting the date and time of the June 2023 Chicago Transit Board regular meeting?
So move.
Second. It's been properly moved by Director Jakes and seconded by Director Ortiz. Director Lee? Yes. Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Ja?
Yes.
The motion to set the date and time of the June 2023 CTA board meeting, regular board meeting passes. Our next board matter is to approve an ordinance appointing members to the Citizen Advisory Board.
May I have a motion to approve an ordinance appointing members to the Citizens Advisory Board?
So moved.
I have a comment. I approve it, or I am in agreement of moving this particular matter forward. I think just for the record, it would be helpful to note for this term or the next term that we take a couple of components like demographics into account and just maybe queue them up or understand them as well as these different entities or individuals are coming for the board. Maybe race, ethnicity, gender. So just making sure that there is a good balance there. Geographic diversity, which I know is very much in taken under account. And any other unique experiences that make these particular individuals just really valuable to have on the board. So I love to just maybe note that for future, and then for whatever we do have on this board, it would be helpful to just document and quantify that.
Thank you, Director Ortiz. Any further comments before we vote?
We can't vote, but we haven't had a second.
We haven't had a second.
Okay, I apologize. Okay. Second.
It's been properly moved by Director Jakes and seconded by Director Lee. Director Lee? Yes. Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Ja?
Yes.
The motion to approve an ordinance appointing members to the Citizens Advisory Board passes.
Our next order of business is a report from the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Director Jakes.
The committee met earlier this morning and approved the May 10th, 2023 committee minutes and reviewed the finance report. The committee reviewed 3 ordinances. An ordinance authorizing a co-promotional agreement with the city of Chicago through its Department of Assets, Information and Services. An ordinance authorizing a license agreement with PACE for the use of 2 parking spaces at the Rosemont Park and Ride Lot for PACE Van Gogh Pilot Vehicle Program. An ordinance authorizing the purchase of primary and excess property insurance coverage for policy year 2023-2024. Committee also reviewed 12 contracts. Committee approved and recommended for board approval 3 ordinances and the 12 contracts. Committee placed the ordinances and 12 of the contracts on the omnibus. That concludes my report. Chairman Barclay.
Thank you, Director Jakes. I will now entertain a motion to approve the omnibus as stated by Director Jakes.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved by Director Jakes and seconded by Director Ortiz to approve the omnibus. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
The motion to approve the omnibus passes.
Our next order of business is a construction report from Bill Mooney, the Chief Infrastructure Officer, and Juan Pablo Prieto, our Director of Diversity Programs.
Good morning, directors and Chairman Barclay. Bill Mooney, your Chief Infrastructure Officer. We'll begin this month where we have for the last few with the CDOT Lake Line Damon Station project. Next slide. The project continued to move forward with work around the structural rehabilitation to be able to accommodate the new platforms and station connections, as well as the main core being expanded out and built and starting to build some of the stair walls and other key station elements as we move forward. Some of these photos. Here you can see the last couple months I've shown you them shoring up the existing structure to be able to beef up the columns and column bases. Here you have the new columns in place and they're getting ready to completely repaint those columns and the new connection points as well as the existing structure. Next slide. Here is the center core tower. It's now they were forming up on their second floor last month. You saw some photos of them building out the first floor kind of portion of that core tower. This will connect the elevator as well as the bridge tower that crosses over the tracks to connect the two platforms. Next slide. And here you can see the main station house stairwell. So this is starting to be formed out and poured. This will connect ultimately to the mezzanine up at the upper area, as well as for an escalator and stairwell connection to facilitate passenger movement. Next slide. Our next projects are non-revenue rail vehicle facility. The project moves forward on schedule and on budget. We've been very, very active here. We can move over to some of the photos and I can talk you through some items. With a facility of the size and magnitude, there's a huge amount of heating and ventilation equipment that needs to go with this. In this case, the most expeditious way to get it onto the roof for installation was using a helicopter. There was 15 pieces of equipment that were ultimately flown up and placed on the roof and ultimately are being connected in for the main systems. This happened a short while ago. It was a pretty interesting sight to see. Next slide. This is from an interior progress camera shot. I think I really like this photo because it gives you a sense of the size of this facility. As you can see, sometimes when I show you some of the work going on inside, you lose some track of how big this facility is ultimately, which we'll be using to maintain some of our biggest equipment. Here you can see large scale pieces of construction equipment, gives you some sense of that scale in relationship to the overall space. Lots of activities going on as we prepare this facility. Next slide. And here's some of that detailed work going on in here. As part of what we have built into this facility will be a series of maintenance pits. And so they're excavating the existing foundation area there to be able to form those concrete pits before we pour the full slab out for the rest of the facility. Next slide, please. Our next project is our Canal, Tie House, Berry, and Damon substation projects. Project is moving forward on schedule and on budget. And a lot of the activities in the recent month has been around the work at Belmont Crossover. I've shown you a lot of work about that going on in the subway there, as well as Damon substation. But this month we actually have a lot of more activity going on at Berry as we got our permits fully obtained at this point, and we've been able to start building the foundations for that new facility. We can move forward to some of those photos. Here is kind of the finish up of the Belmont and track work in the subway, that Logan subway area. So here we had a series of traction power cables that we had to replace as part of the duct bank work, that new substation going in at Berry, and they ended up having to replace a bunch of track as part of that. So here you can see that work being done there, the new track being put in, similar to what was going on with the Belmont Crossover the last few months. Next slide. Here's the project progress work at Berry. As I mentioned, we got our permits and we started digging in the ground. So here they are drilling caissons. As you've seen on many other projects, and including this one, this will create the deep foundation connection that the building ultimately will rest on. This goes all the way down to the bedrock and anchors in there with a cage and concrete on top of it. Next slide. And here at Damon, you can see we've got a roof on the building now. So over the last couple of months, I've been showing you the erection to steel. And so you can see that they've topped off the steel with a roof decking material. And this will ultimately be poured over with asphalt to be able to be the watertight seal that we want as the building's closed in. As well as they started burying in all the underground plumbing and other things that go into the foundation of this building before we pour the concrete on top of it. Next slide. As we continue with our Refresh and Renew program for the year and the 29 stations, we can move to the next slide, please. We've recently, one more, please. We recently completed work at Montrose on the Brown Line, Halsted on the Orange Line, and we began work at Cicero and Howard. We also were able to get work done at 63rd and Archer, Central and Harrison, Chicago, Austin. We've begun work at 79th and Halsted, the bus turnaround program. Move forward to some of the photos of that, examples of that work. Here we are at Montrose on the Brown Line. You can see the refreshed painting, the upgraded LED lighting. It really perks up the space, as we've seen in many of the other stations, is a key component of the program, making it brighter and cleaner looking. But here's a platform level shot, gives you before after. Again, really pops out the space, makes it so much more open and brighter. Next slide. Here's the main stairwell with a fresh coat of paint on it, cleaned up look of lighting. Again, one of those walk-up moments that a customer really sees at all impacted the program. Next slide. Here we are at Halstead. So one of the key components is going in and dealing with major defects. So here they pulled up a bunch of the tactile that over the winter seasons has been damaged or thrust up. They cleaned up the area underneath it, replaced broken tiles, and actually resecured the whole area. So you can see the before after of that. Next slide. Here's some of the bus turnaround programs. So this is the back of the house. So this is the bus operator bathroom area. So you can see that it's been completely cleaned up, fresh coat of paint. They've checked all the equipment in there, upgraded as necessary. Next slide. Here's some of the exterior work at 63rd and Archer. You can see the bus turnaround going around in the area, the touched up lighting, lining, yellow curb sensors, as well as replacement pavement, a curb, and other patch areas as required. Next slide. Here's some of the exterior work. You can see the damaged gutter lines. They cleaned those up. Next slide. Here's another bathroom shot of the cleaned up bathroom area. Next slide. Here's a pretty big portion of one of the projects. So Chicago-Austin had a pretty damaged out bus turnaround area, and we did a full repour of that whole area. So you can see the before on the left and the after on the right. And what a big impact that makes both to the longevity of the buses, as well as the general sense of the customer experience as they wait for buses there. I would also note that this is actually, you can see in the background of the after photo, that is one of the first electric bus charging facilities. And so that's the substation in the background. And then because this has an electric bus facility, we have a lot more lining on here to help operators identify where they should stop to be able to make those charging connections. Next slide. And as we've gone about this program, we've spent a lot of time working with the electeds to help them identify for us pain points they see around stations, as well as some of the great work we've been doing with our trades programs around this. I had the privilege of walking Howard Station with Alderperson Hayden as some of the work was going on there. She's a huge supporter of the program, really has been impressed with the efforts and really has been a proponent and celebrating it for us. And so we did take the opportunity to walk through the stations, talk through the items that we were addressing, making sure if there was anything we missed, we were getting it addressed before we left the grounds. Next slide. So as the Red Line Extension project, moves forward, from time to time, I'll be bringing you some updates around the project. I'm probably more quarterly until some of the really active work starts in the field. But I want to provide, there's a lot of work going on in the background. I want to provide some backgrounds around this. So as the board is well aware, some major milestones recently, President Carter announced a short list at last month's board meeting with FH Fashion, Wagner Benson, Millhouse, and BOA joint venture is one team, Hewitt Infrastructure is another team, and Walsh Vinci Transit Community Partners is our third team. As the chairman, I know Chairman Barclay was at the Plan Development Commission and was there speaking in support of the Transit Supported Development Plan that was adopted by City Council in May as well, which is a huge portion of the life after the project and really the big impact of the project as a whole. We continue to move forward with our procurements around this, and our RFP will be released shortly to that short list of contractors to move forward this big design build contract. And we are very excited to be looking to enter into the formal FTA engineering phase in the upcoming couple months. We have all our paperwork in, and we're waiting for the final review to come through from the FTA, but we are confident that we'll be moving forward with that step in the near term. And later this year, the board will be asked to give consideration to the construction manager who will ultimately oversee all the work on our behalf. That's expected this fall. Next slide, please. We've been equally active in the community and workforce outreach programs here. We did a major press release and collaborating with President Carter's announcement at the board meeting, announcing the short list of contractors, as well as we routinely meet with our project advisory council and their workforce subcommittee. This was done in the project footprint back in the beginning of June. With that, I'll turn it over to Juan Pablo to talk a little bit about the workforce efforts here.
Thanks, Bill. Good afternoon, directors. Juan Pablo Prieto, Director of Diversity Programs. We're very excited to be talking to you about our DB and workforce outreach efforts for the Red Line Extension. On June 8th, we held our Meet the RLE Shortlisted Primes event here at CTA headquarters. over 100 individuals representing DBE firms, the shortlisted primes, and our technical assistance agencies came to hear a presentation about the RLE project and our commitment and prioritization of DBE on this project. Chairman Barclay, Chief Operating Officer Veronica Alanis, and Vice President of the Red Line Extension, Tanisha Marshall, presented, and then the three teams presented their in separate sessions, their approach to DBE to the DBE firms. Our technical assistance agencies, along with the Chicago Housing Authority, hosted tables to provide resources and other contracting opportunities. We also had the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials, or COMTO, present to support our efforts. While this was our first official outreach for the design build contract, this is not the first time we've presented about the project to the community, to the DBE community. Many of our contracts that have already been awarded for RLE have strong DBE commitments, and several have been set aside through our Small Business Enterprise, or SBE program. We will use a similar model that we use for RPM and conduct road shows to the membership meetings of our technical assistance agencies so they can learn about RLE and connect with the shortlisted primes. As with RPM, once we select a team, we'll come back around to the membership meetings to present the selected team, and so they can talk more in depth about how they're going to include DBEs on the project. You'll see a list of meetings that have been scheduled, but more will be added as we hear back from the assist agencies. Bill.
Thank you. We can move forward to our next slide. On our RPM project, we continue on budget and on schedule at this point. Can we move forward a couple slides, please? So we advanced rapidly towards the next major phase changes. This is down at the Red Purple Bypass area. We moved towards what will ultimately be known as North Main Line Phase 3. Here I've been showing you the work of the deck. Here you can see the fully completed deck pours, and they've started forming and building out the curb walls, as well as the ties. I think last month we had some photos of those ties. You can see here where they've got the rail hung on the right side of this photo with the ties being poured up to it and the caging underneath it. Next slide. We continue our rehabilitation of the existing brown line structure in this area. So here you can see some of that structural work going on. Next slide. And up on the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr modernization, we advanced towards stage B. The stations are moving forward. The new temp stations, this is at Bryn Mawr, are moving forward very rapidly. Here you can see the exterior siding installation being finished up. Next slide. Here's the temp platform at Argyle. So they are in the process of completing the platform roofing, as well as adding all the signage brackets and ultimately adding all the electrical and other communication systems that we use on our platforms to work through our customers. You can see the track off on the side there. This is the center platform. There'll be track on both sides of it. Next slide. And here's some of that track work. So this is actually right over in the area similar to the temp station. This is the final finishes on that special track work. A couple months ago, I showed you some similar pictures of that work being poured in. Here they're finishing up the final alignment and bolting it down to the final tie alignment spacing. Next slide. And we continue to actively work in the community. We provide regular updates to both the 44th Ward and 48th Ward, as well as we've been meeting with a series of the local SSAs and other community organizations talking about the future of the embankment wall, doing tours, discussing how that work's going to be occurring and then the outreach efforts we'll be doing later this fall in coordination of that. There was a great Chicago Tonight story on the RPM project and some of the work that we've done around there, and they open for business campaigns. And we regularly continue to work with our virtual office hours and meeting with constituents, answering questions as required. And with that, I'll get it back over to Juan Pablo.
Thanks again, Bill. CTA Diversity continues to meet monthly with the contractor to discuss DBE workforce outreach and compliance. Subcontracting opportunities are communicated to the DBE community, and workforce opportunities are sent to both of our workforce partners. I am proud to say that our DBE awards continue to grow. As of May 31st, DBEs have been awarded over $241 million between the design and construction packages on RPM Phase 1. These dollars have been awarded to 96 unique DBE firms, 40 of who are new to CTA. On the workforce side, as of the end of May, 1,876 unique individuals have worked over 1.2 million labor hours and earned over $75 million. That concludes my portion of the report.
And Juan Pablo and I will be glad to take any questions before I turn it back over to President Carter.
Any questions? Any questions, Director? Thank you, Mr. Mooney and Mr. Prieto. Thank you very much for your report. Our next order of business is new business. Georgette, is there any new business?
There is no new business, Chairman Barclay.
Excuse me, Georgette, I have a video queued up also. Can I play that video before we close out?
Who am I talking? Is that Herb?
That's Herb.
Yes.
That's
sorry.
Herb.
Herb wants to play a video, Chairman Barclay.
Get their attention. What's the video? What's the video of Herb?
Chairman Barclay, this is Bill Mooney, your Chief Infrastructure Officer again. This is the latest in our series where we've been covering either people that have benefited from the workforce aspects of the RPM project or the DBE program. This is actually talking about one of our DBE partners who's really been successfully grown as a partner in the mentor protege under Walsh. The firm is Pinto. And this is just another one of these great opportunities that we see the impact of these projects beyond.
That's fine. You can play the video. I thought it was a Taylor Swift video. I'm doing that. Okay. All right. Thank you.
So my name is Richard Pinto Jr. I'm the project manager for Pinto Construction Group. We are currently contracted to complete carpentry scope throughout the project, as well as the fiberglass panel installation. Currently, we are completing the Argyle temp station, as well as the Bryn Mawr B temp station, and previously we've completed all the carpentry scope on the Bryn Mawr A temp station. The red and purple modernization project has allowed us to revamp our painting division and have a solid crew of 7 to 10 painters going steady throughout the year. And it has also allowed us to develop a civil division that allows us to bid competitively in other markets as well. My dad started the business in 1987 and I was born in 92. So some of my earliest childhood memories are being in the office and playing with my Tonka trucks. It is a great experience being able to witness him cultivate and build the company to the point that it is, and I intend to continue to grow the company and expand. So moving forward, I would like to bring engineers internally that are able to complete shop drawings and calculations so we are able to provide a fully engineered system that we are able to furnish and install. I'm very grateful for the CTA. Their DBE program has given us an opportunity to competitively bid and land work that we otherwise would not have an advantage gaining. I'm also very grateful for Walsh Floor because their Mentor Protege program has allowed me to improve upon my operations both internally and externally in the field.
Chairman. So you've heard me talk about how we leverage these projects to really create generational wealth. This is a prime example of what I refer to when I say that. This is a company that is going to not just benefit from this project, but from many projects going forward. And as part of the President's Environmental Justice 40 initiative, CTA has been really at the forefront of leveraging our capital investment projects to not just build infrastructure that we need to operate our system, but to create opportunities for companies and individuals that will pay benefits for generations to come. I'm very proud of the work that our team is doing in this area. We are the country leaders in this effort. We are sought after, and particularly JP is sought after to talk about the programs that we put in place for not only red purple modernization, but the programs that you heard JP and the infrastructure team talk about preparing for RLE. These projects are not only important to CTA from a transportation standpoint, but they're important to the communities that we serve. And this is just one example of how we're taking these projects and converting them into transformational projects for these communities, both in terms of the investments that we're making, but also in terms of the opportunities that we are creating. Thank you very much. Anything further by way of comment?
Director Lee? None for me. Director Jakes?
Last month, unless it slipped my memory, we did not acknowledge Asian American and Pacific Heritage Month. So I want to say happy Asian American Pacific Heritage Month, and happy Pride Month. And that's it.
Director Ortiz,
I second, and also thank you for sharing.
Director Ja,
No questions. I totally agree.
and let us also not forget that Director Ja will be featured at our fireside chat on the 21st of June. We will all be tuning in and watching with bated breath.
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Since there's no further business to come before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn the Chicago Transit Board meeting of June 16, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Jake and seconded by Director Ortiz. Director Ja? Yes. Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yeah.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned.